I need to tell you a story, not because we want attention for ourselves, but because this story is about attention itself. Behind the throne room, there is not a corporation. There's not a big team. There's not a marketing department, a PR agency, or investors quietly pushing buttons in the background. There is one person, one human being working alone, trying to build something that feels almost impossible in today's internet. A project made by the crowd for the crowd. A place where attention is not decided by algorithms, not by artificial intelligence, not by money, not by status, not by the perfect CV, not by who already has influence, but by a simple idea. What would happen if, for 24 hours, the whole world looked at one person, not a celebrity, not a politician, not an influencer chosen by the machine, just one human being chosen through a public social experiment? That is the idea behind the throne room. And this message is being spoken by our brand voice, a fictional first virtual member of the project created for storytelling and communication. Not because the founder wants to hide, but because English is not his first language and speaking on microphone is not something he feels comfortable doing. But lack of perfect English should not silence a real idea. A weak CV should not erase a strong vision. And in 2026, when artificial intelligence is sold to us as the tool that allows anyone to build, create, dream, and compete, we have to ask a serious question. Are ordinary people truly being given a chance? Or are we only allowed to create until our ideas begin to compete? The founder of this project is Romanian, and maybe that is why what happened next hurt even more. Because if you are Romanian, you already know what it feels like to see a democratic process questioned, interrupted, challenged, and reopened under the pressure of forces most ordinary people cannot see, cannot verify, and cannot fully understand. But before we go there, let's talk about what happened to the throne room. The project launched as a clean, minimalist website, thethroneroom.online. No fake promises, no manipulation, no dark pattern, no algorithm deciding who deserves visibility. Just a simple landing page introducing a social experiment. Only one person can sit on the throne at a time. The first promotional material was a short founder interview posted on YouTube. It was a simple 12-minute explanation of the project, the idea, and the reason it exists. But almost immediately, something strange happened. As soon as the interview started getting a little bit of visibility, the momentum appeared to freeze. Then, something even stranger was noticed. The original interview link seemed to have changed. The link being used in promotional materials no longer opened the video from the beginning. It opened from around 7 seconds in. 7 seconds may sound like nothing, but in online storytelling, 7 seconds can be everything. That is where the hook lives. That is where the first emotional connection is made. Maybe it was a technical issue. Maybe it was accidental. Maybe it was nothing. But when you are building alone and every second matters, you notice these things. Then came Reddit. A new official community was created for the project. A welcome message was posted explaining the idea, the community-first approach, and the concept of the one. Soon after, a link and teaser connected to the original interview were shared. And then the community was banned almost instantly, with no meaningful explanation beyond a reference to the platform's terms. At that point, we still did not want to believe anything strange was happening. We did not want conspiracy theories, so we tried something simple. A post was submitted to r/internet is beautiful. The title was, "I just launched a social experiment disguised as a social network." The description was only one person can sit on the throne at a time. And the link was thethroneroom.online. That is all. A clean website, a simple idea, a public social experiment. The post went live on May 12, 2026 at 22:38. After only 6 minutes, it had 536 views and a 100% upvote rate. After 7 minutes, it reached 633 views, but the upvote rate started to fall. 1 minute later, it reached 750 views, then 905 views. Around 12 minutes after posting, it reached roughly 1,200 views. And then, something dramatic happened. The upvote rate dropped to 0%, but the views did not stop. For the next 9 minutes, the view count kept accelerating until it reached around 2,900 views. Refresh after refresh, the numbers were climbing. For someone building alone, watching that happen in real time felt unbelievable. For a moment, it looked like the idea had finally broken through. Based on that speed, it was reasonable to wonder whether the post could reach 10,000 views within an hour, maybe much more within 24 hours. And then suddenly, the post was banned, just like that. Gone. Imagine watching a door open for the first time, and then watching it slam shut in your face. But the most interesting part was not only the removal. It was what appeared in the comments before it happened. One comment said, "WTF is this LinkedIn nonsense?" That appeared to refer to the founder section of the website where there was a link to LinkedIn. Another comment asked the moderators to ban what the user called Versal BS and domains that were not at least 6 months old. But the website was not built on Versal, so that comment raised questions. Had the site been scanned? Had the domain age been checked? Was this a normal reaction, or was the idea being dismissed before it was even understood? Another comment said, "This is the kind of stuff you write for yourself and never publish." Another simply said, "No thanks." Now, comments like this happen every day on Reddit. That is not the issue. The issue is the timing, the speed, the profile patterns, and the removal. Some of the accounts involved appeared to have long histories. One around 16 years old with hundreds of thousands of karma, another around 9 years old also with a very large amount of karma, and one account that appeared to be around 8 years old but with almost no activity. Again, this does not prove coordination. It does not prove censorship. It does not prove intent. But it does raise a fair question. Why did a simple social experiment on a clean website with no harmful content trigger such an immediate and aggressive reaction right as it was gaining visibility? And this is where the story becomes bigger than one website, because we are living in a time when the internet is no longer just the internet. It is the infrastructure of public life. It is where people discover ideas, where careers are born, where reputations are made, where movements begin, where elections are influenced, where truth and manipulation fight every single day. The European Union says the Digital Services Act exists to make the online environment safer and to protect fundamental rights. That is important. No serious person wants bots, scams, foreign manipulation, or illegal content to destroy democratic life. But the deeper question is this: who watches the watchers? When platforms control visibility, when algorithms control reach, when moderation happens instantly and explanations come later, if they come at all, how can an ordinary person know whether their idea failed naturally or whether it was quietly stopped before people had the chance to decide? This question became even more painful after what happened in Romania. In December 2024, Romania's presidential election was annulled after allegations of foreign interference and online manipulation. The second round had already begun for voters abroad. Calin Georgescu, an independent anti-establishment candidate, had unexpectedly won the first round after gaining massive attention online, especially through social media. Authorities pointed to concerns about campaign irregularities, undeclared promotion, digital influence, and alleged Russian interference. Supporters argued that much of the campaign energy came voluntarily from people who believed in him. Critics argued that the digital ecosystem had been manipulated. The truth is still debated by many people, but one fact is undeniable. Millions of Romanians were left with a wound. Some felt protected from interference. Others felt robbed of their vote. Many simply felt that the full truth was never explained clearly enough. Then, in February 2025, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance stood at the Munich Security Conference and openly criticized European governments over free speech, censorship, and the cancellation of elections. He specifically referred to Romania. Later, in May 2025, Telegram founder Pavel Durov claimed that French intelligence asked him to ban Romanian conservative voices before the election rerun. France strongly denied the claim. Durov did not provide public proof. Romanian and European officials rejected the accusation. So again, we are not here to declare a final verdict. We are here to ask the question that every democracy should be strong enough to tolerate. How much control over public attention is too much control? Because today, a platform does not need to delete your life to erase your voice. It only needs to reduce your reach. It only needs to freeze your momentum. It only needs to remove your post at the exact moment people start paying attention. And maybe there is always a technical explanation. Maybe there is always a policy explanation. Maybe there is always a moderation explanation. But when ordinary people are never given clear answers, trust begins to die. That is why the throne room matters. Not because it is perfect, not because it is big, not because it is backed by power, but because it asks something simple and dangerous. What if attention belonged to people again? What if one unknown person, one forgotten talent, one underestimated builder, one dreamer without the right CV could stand in front of the world for 24 hours? What if the internet stopped asking, "Who are you already?" and started asking, "What do you have to say?" This project was not built to crown its founder. It was built for everyone who knows what it feels like to be ignored, for the people who were never invited into the room, for the people who were told they were not qualified, for the people who had the talent but not the network, for the people who had the vision but not the money, for the people who worked in silence while the world rewarded noise. The throne room is not just a website, it is a question. And maybe that question is uncomfortable. Maybe a platform where attention is not controlled by algorithms feels dangerous in an internet built on control. Maybe a project made by the crowd for the crowd sounds naive, but every meaningful idea sounds naive before it becomes necessary. So this is not a call for anger. It is not a call for harassment. It is not a call to attack platforms, moderators, institutions, or people. It is a call for transparency, a call for fairness, a call for the right to ask questions without being dismissed as paranoid, a call for ordinary people to stand together when visibility becomes a privilege instead of a right. Because if the future of speech is decided silently by systems we cannot see, then democracy becomes something we perform, not something we live. And if a single independent project can be frozen, dismissed, or removed before people are allowed to judge it for themselves, then we should all care. Not because of the throne room, because tomorrow it could be your idea, your voice, your work, your vote, your truth. So here is the question we leave you with. In a world where algorithms decide what humanity sees, do we still have the courage to build a place where people decide? The throne room is open. The question is not who owns the throne. The question is, will the crowd be allowed to choose? And maybe this is the moment where this story stops being about the throne room. Maybe the project itself has already moved into the background. Because without even realizing it, this journey forced us to look beyond a website, beyond a post, beyond one band community, beyond one person trying to build something alone. It forced us to see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is this. If attention can be controlled, voices can be controlled. If voices can be controlled, ideas can be controlled. And if ideas can be controlled, then freedom becomes nothing more than a beautiful word we repeat while slowly forgetting what it truly means. Everything humanity has built, art, science, democracy, innovation, human rights, technology, culture, progress, was born from the courage of someone, somewhere, to speak, to imagine, to question, to create. Every invention that gave us comfort today began as an idea that could have been ignored. Every movement that gave people dignity began as a voice that could have been silenced. Every better future began with someone brave enough to say, "No, we can do better than this." So maybe this is the time to step forward, not with hate, not with fear, not with anger blindly thrown into the world, but with courage, with clarity, with dignity, with solidarity. Because freedom is not protected by speeches after it is gone. Freedom is protected by people who still care while it is still here. And history has shown us something painful again and again. When good people stop paying attention, the world does not stay neutral. Silence creates space. Indifference creates permission. And by the time people finally realize what was lost, the price of getting it back is always higher. But I still believe in people. I still believe that most of us do not want a future where invisible systems decide what deserves to live and what deserves to disappear. I still believe we are more than users, more than data, more than audiences, more than numbers on a dashboard. We are human beings. We think, we feel, we create, we dream, we disagree, we change the world. And if we still call ourselves intelligent beings, then maybe this is the moment to prove it. Not by destroying what exists, but by building what is missing, not by waiting for permission, but by remembering that the internet was never supposed to belong only to the powerful. It was supposed to belong to all of us. So let this message end not as a complaint, but as an invitation to care again, to question again, to build again, to protect the freedom that made every dream possible in the first place. Because without freedom, even the most beautiful future is just a cage with better lighting. And with freedom, one voice can still become a movement. One idea can still change a generation. And one crowd, if it remembers its power, can still choose the future.